Hi, my name's Abel. My wife and I decided to renovate our home to make it more sustainable and better suit our family's needs. One of the large scopes of the project was to install dormers on the third floor and occupy that space, and that allowed us to put a fairly flat roof up on the east-west axis that allowed for the future installation of a solar array. The house sits in the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District, and the Preservation Commission really wants us to keep the front elevation the same. It wants us to keep the architectural detailing the same. It was a little challenging in the planning process, but we managed to come up with some pretty good ideas to kind of super insulate our home around those guidelines. Let's go look at the house in detail a little bit. So the project involved removing all of the siding and all of the windows. The windows were shot and the siding needed to come off so I could insulate the home. So what I did is I preserved all the components of the siding that I could, because I knew I was going to have to put them back up. I did have to buy new siding, but I managed to reuse a lot of the stuff that was up. Then I wrapped the house in what's called exhalation. It's like insulation, but it's on the exterior of the home. And basically a layer of board foam over the whole house creates a nice thermal blanket and a nice pressure boundary to prevent air leaking. Then I put the rain screen system back up to get the siding off of the house. It basically creates a drainage plane below wood siding that really cuts down on how frequent you have to paint the house. You could go from 5 years, every 5 years in New Jersey, when you have a problematic wood installation on your house, to painting your house every 20 or 25 years. And one of the sustainable principles is that every material you put into your home has a life cycle. We're trying to extend that life cycle as far as we can, and you can do that with some of these interesting systems. Come on inside and I'll show you the interior. It was important for my wife and I to have a wood-burning fireplace. This is a insert-style sealed combustion fireplace. The inefficiency with a lot of fireplaces is that they use indoor air for the combustion, and they actually often represent a heat loss when you have a fire. So this takes outside air and uses it for combustion, sends it out the chimney. There's also a convective loop of air intake here that blows hot air out into the room, so I get quite a bit of heat out of this thing. Let me bring you into the other side of the room to show you the chimney venting. So the fireplace manufacturers recommend that you allow your chimney to exhaust the hot air that builds up in it through your roof. I decided not to do that. Instead, I created a pressure boundary by sealing the chimney to the flue. So the heat now builds up in my chimney. I installed vents on the chimney itself that allow air to draw in on the first floor, and there are exhaust vents on the second and third floor that allow that heat to get up into that area. I have a separate handler in that area, and that handler can distribute that heat around the rooms and make it really comfortable. So I can heat my entire house with this 65% efficient wood-burning fireplace without using any electricity. This is not a LEED certified home, but one of the guiding principles of LEED certification is that wood comes within a 500-mile radius, and I can give you 4 points on your LEED score. So I really tried to employ that principle when I was selecting the wood details in the home. So a lot of the wood from this house comes from local outfits that provide wood that came down in storms and otherwise would have become mulch. So we have benches, tables, counters, shelves, all sorts of things like that that we managed to make out of local wood. The flooring is a character grade white oak. It's not a select grade because a lot of timber is harvested for the select grade woods. So when you use the character grade, which is kind of at the bottom, it's something that may have been cast away, turned to firewood, turned into mulch, and all that carbon during the mulch and fire burning process is released into the environment. So now we're sequestering the carbon in our wood floors. You can see it has a little bit of character. It takes a little bit of work to install it, but I think it comes out beautiful and I don't feel that guilty about using it. Let me bring you into the kitchen. So this is an induction cooktop. I love this thing, and it's really the only choice we had when we cut off the gas. This thing has 19 settings. Water boils really quickly. If I'm burning something, I can turn down the heat and the heat source is cut off immediately. You can touch the glass almost immediately after you slide the pan away because there's no longer any heat source. It's a lot safer for kids. I think it's very important to have a good hood for indoor air quality, because even though we don't have the combustion of gases at our cooktop, you still have combustion byproducts that happen when you fry foods. So a good hood eliminates all of that. We also have electric oven, all these other electrical fixtures, of course. And we have a few neat items like composting. We're mostly vegetarian in this house, so a lot of our waste is just food scrap, and we compost all that right here on site. And I have this really nifty bag dryer, so I can wash and dry bags in a pretty appealing and attractive manner. Come on downstairs, I'll show you my hot water system. This is a heat pump hot water system, and it's really the best choice for somebody who no longer has gas. What this does is it takes the energy from the conditioned air in the room and it turns that heat, that potential heat, into hot water. The byproduct of a heat pump hot water system is cold air. So this blows cold air into my house, which is beneficial during the summer months when I'm trying to cool my home. In the winter months, there's a vent kit that you can add on to the fixture that guides that air outside, so you're not blowing cold air into the room that you're trying to condition. This is a hot water manifold. Okay, so the idea with this is that you position it as closely as you can to the hot water tank so that the pipe that feeds it is as short as possible, because every length of pipe represents wasted length of water distribution. The manifold sends a single home run line to each hot water fixture on the shortest path possible, with the smallest diameter pipe according to that fixture's flow requirements. So for example, in bathroom sinks, I can send a 3/8 inch line, which represents about half the volume per foot of a 1/2 inch line. And I send it directly to the fixture. The longest wait time in this house at a hot water fixture is 11 seconds. I'm not wasting water. In the old style of plumbing, some people waited up to 2 minutes for hot water, and that even can represent 100% waste, because they turn it on, they fill the whole line up with hot water, and they never get hot water, and they shut it off, and they have not gotten any hot water, and they've wasted all that energy. Come on up and let me show you my mechanical systems. So my heating and cooling utilizes a ducted mini split system, which is an air source heat pump. Basically, it's a handler just like in any house with a furnace and air conditioning. This is a refrigerant line. So this refrigerant line goes down to the outdoor condenser, and through a pretty complicated process, it extracts heat or cooling from the air, depending on the season, and it supercharges it so that the temperature is exaggerated, brings that altered temperature back up to the handler, sends it in a coil, and my duct system and handler blow air throughout my house. It sounds pretty standard, but it's electricity, there's no gas required. The ERV system, now ERV is Energy Recovery Ventilator. That system provides ventilation for my house. I'm gonna take you through and show you that in the other crawl space. What that does is gives me ventilation in a house that's really well sealed, because a really well sealed home can have indoor air quality problems if you don't introduce makeup air. So this is the ERV. This is the Energy Recovery Ventilation System. What it does is take air from my handler, from my duct return box, brings it through this box and sends it outside. Then it brings in recovery air into the same box. Those airs don't mix, but they kind of cross over each other thermally, so that the energy that you put into the air in your house is recovered by the makeup air. And it recovers somewhere between 60 and 70% of that energy. So it does not represent energy loss while you're ventilating your home, getting fresh air into your home. Let's go out and look at some material reuse. So this is a material reuse. This flooring was on the second floor when we started renovating the house. And I carefully removed it and stored it during the construction process, and then installed it up here. It's an old growth pine, it's a 100-year-old wood, and the trees were probably hundreds of years old because it is an old growth wood. So I thought it was very important to reuse that instead of putting brand new flooring up here. So another important flooring component is decking. Decking is kind of an architecturally problematic sustainable product because you really have three bad choices. You have plastic, which has all sorts of problems. You have pressure treated, which you can use sparingly. It is a renewable softwood, but it's still problematic chemically. And then you have hardwoods from rainforests. And those, of course, are problematic because rainforests are carbon sinks. So I like to use local hardwood. Now here in New Jersey, we have black locust. Black locust is as durable as rainforest hardwoods. And the best thing you can do if you're going to use a tree for anything is use every bit. So I chose random width decking selection so that I could use every little bit of that tree. And you'll see that I have sort of a range of between 2.5 inch and 6 inch boards. You might not live in a 100-year-old home. You might not live in a historic district, but I think the guiding principles of saving as much of the house as you can and keeping those historic details while making the house as sustainable as you can, those are good principles. Thanks very much for joining.